welcome back to the channel. Please ignore my depression pile of laundry in the background. I'm going to do my hair, and as much as I'd like this to be just a hair video, I've seen some things this week and I have shit to say. Okay, well, that's obviously not the vibe. I saw oh, I probably did it the wrong way. That would probably be why. And it's not going through in the slightest. There's no products in it. Okay. Anyways, I'm gonna use my usual potions to get my hair in order, I guess, while I talk about this. I saw Aubriana's Curls on Instagram use this, and I was like, oh, I hate actually taking the time to fucking finger curl my whole head. So let me see. It worked for her. I'm hoping it'll work for me because this brush was $30. So I hope it will be a time-saving investment. Anyways, what I've been seeing a lot of, I mean, do I even want to call it discourse? I don't know. A lot of chatter around, especially on TikTok, is trad wives or traditional wives, if you don't know what that means. Trad wife content and the sprinkle lifestyle. I won't even necessarily say it's a movement because it's not for everybody and not everybody can pull it off. But if you know Shara 7, you know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. Sir, here is my reaction to trad wife content, and maybe it might give you something to think about. So at first I was like, oh, like, who cares? Who is it hurting? Like, I follow Emily Mariko just because I like the aesthetics of her videos. Do I think she's that great a cook? No. She puts like 3 flakes of salt on everything. She tried to sell that $120 tote bag, and then I was like, oh, you know what? We're just not the audience. And then the more I listen to people talk about it, which is completely okay. If you think something at first and then you hear more surrounding that topic and you eventually like change your mind, that's a good thing. It's okay to change your mind about stuff. So I was like, you know what? This was supposed to go first. Oh God, I'm fucked. At first I was like, who's it hurting? Blah, blah, blah. And then I heard people like, yeah, okay, maybe in a different sense, we wouldn't be the target audience. But in this sense, you know, millions of people follow this girl's page. She doesn't interact with anybody. She doesn't respond to comments, you know, DMs or whatever. She has obviously wealthy, white passing woman. I don't know if she's completely white or like what her racial ethnic situation is. But it doesn't really matter because she is white passing. She comes from a wealthy family, and people are like, oh, how can you afford to just cook something new every day and like go to the farmer's market and buy fresh produce and do this, that, and the other? Because she comes from a wealthy family, and because she ran in the same circles as other wealthy families, she was able to meet a wealthy husband. And quiet luxury isn't really quiet luxury because it's very obvious that these people are flaunting their money, and it's exorbitant amounts of money that most of us will never see in our lifetime, you know? I think about how, like, you know, my mom, a single mother, raised us. She worked part-time. So it's not like we had access to all these different things. So even trying a new recipe or like going to the farmer's market or something, I feel like that's not something we experienced until much later in life. And I'm not saying she grew up with that, like the Emily Marikos of the internet grew up with these things, even though it's more likely that they did. But it's just a showcase of wealth. And, you know, people buy into it. I mean, I like it just because I like looking at it. Like, I watch Nora Smith. I think it's very relaxing for her to cut up, boil, and bake homemade bagels. But it's also like a form of getting away from your real life, which is what a lot of social media is. And I don't think there's, I don't want to say I don't think there's anything wrong with it, because real life should not be so bad that you have to find comfort in these women who have insane amounts of money. And, you know, they're doing their Pilates every day. They're at their bar class. They're drinking their matcha oat milk latte. And are you fucking kidding me? Get the fuck out of here. Their matcha oat milk latte or whatever. And they strictly wear Lululemon. And why is she breaking so loud in the background? You know? Things that most people likely can't or won't have access to. And it also brought up the conversation of like reproductive rights. So that bullshit that's coming out of Alabama, which I'm not surprised in any sense of the word that it is coming from somewhere like there. This has always been like just common knowledge. Banning abortions or putting restrictions on reproductive rights is always an attack on poor birthing people. Rich women will always have access to abortions. So getting online, or just reproductive health care in general, like I've seen stories of women who have been unable to get care or advice from doctors because they're scared to touch it because of the reproductive rollbacks that have been in place. They're so loud and fucking annoying at this apartment. Because of the reproductive rollbacks that have been in place, the lady who had a miscarriage in her toilet, why was that even a case that was brought to court, you know? So regular women have to face shit like that. Let's see them. Or traveling, what is the word I'm looking for? Traveling to excessive lengths to have the reproductive care that they need. I read that women in Alabama are having to travel to certain places in Texas or wherever to have access to the reproductive care that they need, which is another thing. These traditional housewives, tradwives, whatever, getting online and just having child after child after child and just sitting at home being a homemaker is not only not realistic, it's not a good plan. You always need to have a backup plan, and you always need to invest in yourself first. And you might be like, what do you mean by that? And what I mean by that is do not depend on a man for financials in a certain sense. Okay, so now it's gonna like tie into Share 7 and Sprinkle. So Shira basically tells you how to get money from men, and you know what she does. And if you don't, what's not that hard to go find her on some platform, and all you have to do is listen to a snippet of one video and you'll already know what she's about and what she preaches. So that's fine and dandy if you have something to fall back on if that doesn't work out. Some of these trad wives have like got married young, just started having child after child after child, have no educational background, you know, maybe like a high school degree, which sad to say, it doesn't get you that far. A bachelor's degree doesn't even get you as far today as it used to. So at least having that to fall back on, at least having some experience in something Like, don't let a man take credit for everything. I saw this woman, she had bought a windshield business, and because of her Mormon faith or whatever, women weren't supposed to own businesses or be leaders or whatever was the bullshit reason why. And she had to sign it over to her husband. So basically she worked in the business. She didn't get paid. And like, people saw her resume and was like, don't show this to anybody else because you're never gonna get a job like this. Like, you need actual experience. She said that she didn't even know how to like work a computer. Like, just a normal desktop computer, which is insane to say the least. So making sure that you have some skills, like, okay, if you do come into the luxury of being able to stay home and be a homemaker or whatever, make sure that you have something for yourself. Don't rely solely on a man. If he's gonna pay all the bills, yes, pay all the bills, fine. Squirrel something away for yourself. Make sure you have a backup plan. And that's, you know, if you haven't written it into, like, I guess the legality of your marriage. There's this one girl, she is a stay-at-home girlfriend pretty much, which, you know what, slay, good for her. She is also a lawyer, so she's barred in 2 states. I think New York and California. So yeah, she has a man who's paying all her bills, but if the man plan fails, she has something to fall back on. She's gonna be fine. She's not gonna be a flop. She's never gonna be, you know, wondering where her next meal is coming from, if she's gonna be able to afford her groceries that week. So she talks about writing it into like your marriage paperwork, your prenup or whatever, for each child that I push out for you, for each year that we are married, blah blah blah. He needs to give you like a certain amount of money. That's the least you can do if there's no if you don't have anything to fall back on. Now, consider this. I've seen instances where men will have high paying jobs, they'll quit, they'll get lower paying jobs, they'll be unemployed specifically so they don't have to pay alimony, specifically so they don't have to pay child support. Don't think that you could never be in that situation, because it could never be me, bitch. It could be you. Okay? So if you don't have something to fall back on, then that lifestyle probably is not for you. Yes, Shira gets online and says like, you know, let the men pay all the bills, like blah blah blah, stay at home, you know, get that money by any means necessary. But Shira, if her and her husband would divorce for whatever reason, not be together anymore, she would be fine because she had a career before. She has her own money, even though she is a stay-at-home wife. You know, she was a mortician beforehand, so she has a career that she can go back to. And some of these wives that I'm seeing don't have that. Now, mind you, like Nara Smith, I'm pretty sure she like has a career. Like she's a model. I'm pretty sure that's how her and her husband met. Emily Rico, I don't know what she did, but a lot of these traditional housewives who come from rich families, they've like monopolized the content creation world, much like rich people do with everything. My God, they did it with podcasts, telephones. Like, they monopolize to where the rich stay rich. Like, I'm just trying to think of something. Like, podcasts really used to be about individuality and, you know, just it was meant for the regular person to get on there and express their thoughts. Same thing with social media. Now certain types of people or even certain brands have monopolized these spaces, and that is what basically rich white women are doing on TikTok with the content that they create. So that way it's so pretty because they have access to all these resources. They have the time to sit and make every single meal from scratch and, you know, make their own bread and make their own pasta and this and that. And then when regular people do it, you're less, I don't know what the issue is, but people are less likely to respond positively to it because it's not pretty enough, or you didn't make this from scratch, or like you just don't have these exorbitant amount of money, this exorbitant amount of money that these other people have. So, and then it's like they already have money. They're taking over this space that was once like for fun and individuality and, you know, showcasing different walks of life and a place for people to go and just get their opinions out. And people have these very high, I guess, I don't know, I don't want to say expectations, but people have made it the norm to popularize or make these women who already have had access to a lot of this stuff even more wealthy, more popular, more viral. As a social media manager, I study people's content frequently for my own content and just for work purposes. And a lot of your faves, influencers, content creators, they have time to make content 3 and 4 times a day or every day because they don't work. Or they can do $800 Hello Polly hauls, or I don't know, wherever people get their fast fashion from. They have the money to spend $800 on that because they come from wealth. They can go to these different restaurants every day and go to bar and yoga and this and that every day because they have the time, they have the money. So they're basically showing you that to live and enjoy your life, you have to be wealthy. So people are out here working 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet. So I understand why that can be a form of escapism for you. But these aren't the people that we should be like idolizing. Now, there are some people who got it out the mud, and you know what? I have complete respect for those people, and I will support them. And I do think, you know, you worked hard. So yeah, you should be up there getting recognition. But some of these people who have been given a platform, who do nothing but exude mediocrity or flaunt their wealth in your face, I have things to say, but I'm gonna keep it cute. So basically, all this to say, trad wife content really is widening the gap between the rich and the poor for all of those reasons that I just said. I have other thoughts, I have other opinions. I'll keep it cute because I've talked long enough, and I need to get back to doing my hair because I look like this in my YouTube video. So, thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe.